100% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, 100% reason to remember the name.
Welcome to the Urban Hang Sweet Chill Session 7, where we cover, some of us went on a couple of trips the past couple of months. You know, it's cold in the wintertime. We don't do cold so well, so we talk a bit about our travels, you know, because part of living in Asia is getting around, going to other places, you know, seeing other cultures and that sort of thing. So we talk a little bit about some of our adventures. McConnell was off to Hong Kong, Japan, and Thailand, and I hit up Qatar for a bit, and I had some Tokyo time as well. And then we answered a couple of questions. One of them was about how to start getting back into approaching when, you know, you've been out of it for a while. Maybe you got a girlfriend and you were, you know, being exclusive with her, or maybe, you know, you were just swamped with work and you were really focused on that, or you were about to get fired, so you're really making sure that didn't happen, whatever it is. You know, sometimes you got to take time off from, you know, focusing on girls. And so, you know, that when that happens, it can be hard getting back in. So we give some tips for how to get back involved. Now keep in mind that those tips work also if you have never done it and you want to just get started. So, you know, that's a really great conversation, a common problem that people run into. And then we also talk about whether you can eliminate jealousy and fear and the role that jealousy and fear play in your life. But really, you know, of course, we're focused on, you know, dealing with girls and dating. But we talk about those emotions, whether they're good, whether they're bad, whether you want to get rid of them, whether you can. And, you know, we talk about this because we originally talked about this in session 3, and we thought we go back to it because there was a lot more that we could talk about there. And finally, we had a question from one of the listeners asking us to talk about our experience with threesomes. So for that, we have a very, very special guest, Kane Vast, who you may or may not have heard of, but you should have, who will be we'll have him call in from Beijing just for that discussion because it's one of his areas of expertise. Hey, this is Red Pole Q here with, as usual,
Golden Fox, hey-o!
And
McConnell.
All right, and yeah, it's been kind of a while because mainly because you were off in Thailand
And Japan.
Oh
and
yeah,
Hong Kong.
in Japan.
Don't forget Japan and Hong Kong.
Yeah. Right. All right. So how was Japan, Thailand, and Hong Kong?
All very good as usual.
Anything interesting you want to tell us about your?
Not immediately, but if it ties into the discussion later.
What were you doing in Hong Kong?
Styling one of the guys whose handle I don't know.
Oh, it's Made You Look.
Okay.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, his handle is Made You Look.
Yeah, so I was styling Made You Look. He did a fashion consult with me. So, yeah, we had a really good time. We went shopping and bought him lots of nice clothes.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Good. And did you get up to anything interesting when you were in Thailand?
There's always
that you want to share anything interesting that you
Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me. We can say that for a different podcast.
That could be a good podcast.
That would probably be a pretty good podcast.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we can.
And you were other places too, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I guess I went to Qatar and Japan. Yeah. Qatar was pretty interesting because, you know, it's definitely, I guess people in America and presumably in Europe, they think that, you know, if you go to Asia, it's really different from the West. But, you know, after going to Qatar, I think it's really similar to the West. Asia is really similar. Taiwan, Japan, China, Korea. I mean, they seem really, really similar after going there. I mean, you see, it was just, it just felt so different. You know, like as an example, you know, I was walking by a bank, and they have like one, like it was sort of divided into two parts, and then one part was like men's part, and the other part was like the ladies' part. You know, because you're not allowed to have men and women go to the same bank section or something. You know,
They should have a sign that just says Qatar, not Europe. It's not Europe.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the whole like totally separating men and women, it makes the culture seem much more foreign than, you know, Asia, where you can maybe for a while kind of pretend that it's just like home.
Yeah. Well, there's some places in Asia that it actually is just like home. In, like Hong Kong is pretty similar to being in the West. You know, we were talking about before how if you go to Hong Kong as your first destination, it can kind of mess you up because it's just like the same as being home.
Yeah. You know, I used to say that it's just like New York, except they took out all the brown people and put in yellow people instead. So yeah, Hong Kong is pretty all right. I haven't been in a really long time, but I'm a big fan. But yeah, so anyway, so being in Qatar, that was really really interesting. I don't know how many Middle Eastern listeners we have, but you know, I don't know. There's a really offensive joke that I heard from. This is so bad. So are you aware that camels are called the ship of the desert?
No.
Right. So you know they're called that because much like ships, you can like travel across the desert and they carry a lot of things. But there's a joke about this, and the joke is, well, you know, why are camels called the ship of the desert? And the answer is because they're full of Arab semen. So I don't know. You know, I don't know how true this actually is. I certainly haven't seen
Yes, you do.
any camels having sex. I mean, actually, I haven't seen any camels having sex. I also haven't seen any humans having sex with camels. But you know, Rio seems to be pretty convinced that because the culture is so sexually repressive that, you know, they just want to bang anything. They don't care what it is. but it was very interesting. It was I mean, you definitely, I felt that even though I was there a week, I did start to look at women quite differently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because, you know, a large percentage of the women are totally covered up, and all you can see is, you know, their faces, or sometimes you can't even see their faces. And so when you can see like a woman's full body, it's like really like, ooh, you know, it's kind of and also the male to female ratio there is really bad. I mean, Rio was saying it's like 9 guys for every like 1 girl there or something, because presumably, you know, the Qataris themselves are, you know, approximately 50-50, but, you know, they have a lot of workers from Egypt and Lebanon and Syria and other parts of the Middle East who go there and work. And I guess, you know, they have all these, and a bunch of Indians and Pakistanis as well who are working on like the World Cup facilities. Yeah. You know, there's been all that big scandal around this and them being abused, but I don't know. Rio seems to think that as far as the Qataris are concerned, these are basically slave labor, and you know they're quite above, you know, these migrant workers who come. There's, I guess, the large percentage of the women there are either Filipinas who are there for work, and he was saying that. He was saying that the Filipinas there are not like really nice and sweet like the Filipinas you meet in Asia, because they get so abused there. You know, once again, you know, this is all hearsay, so I don't know, and I don't have any way to verify this, but that's what he was saying. And the other thing that made it really seem quite foreign is that even when you went to like upscale places, people weren't wearing. Actually, when you went to upscale places, you saw less foreign clothing. So it's normally the reverse, right? You know, when you you see like more foreign clothing, the more upscale a place is. But here, when you go to like the most upscale places, it's all like guys in Qatari clothes, which are called a thobe, and a gutra, which is like the head thing that they wear. and it was all the women in the abayas. So it was really interesting. I mean, you go into TGI Fridays, and everybody is except for the young kids. I guess because maybe the girls are too young to. But once you get to be an adult, I guess you start wearing that. Or like I went to a university because Rio's a teacher there, and I went to a university, and there was all these people in the cafeteria wearing thobes and abayas, and in Malaysia obviously you see like women wearing headscarves, but other than that they're wearing like jeans and a t-shirt, so it's just like kind of like wearing a funny hat. But here it's like totally different. So it was really very, very, like the first time I really felt like I was in like a real foreign country.
Yeah.
So it was interesting.
Good you had the experience,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I would go back. I was saying it's a great place if you're writing a book.
Yeah.
Because you just go there and just sit at a cafe all day, smoking a hookah, and drinking Turkish coffee and Moroccan tea, and you could just, it's really slow. There's not a lot happening, so. But it's kind of nice. It's very it's quite a beautiful place, I guess. There's So I saw a prince. I saw a Qatari prince arrive on his yacht from Dubai.
Oh.
The reason we know about that is because I was with Donburi, and we were standing in front of in front of this. We were standing in the shade of this archway thing while we were waiting for our Uber taxi to arrive, and they asked us to move because the prince was going to be coming through. So there you go. Yeah.
Just like monarchy.
Yeah.
The prince is coming.
Yeah.
Move out of the way.
Yeah. It's also really strange to see women in like the fully covered pushing strollers. That's a bit strange. Yeah. Anyway, but it was a good experience. And and then I went to Japan for a little bit, and that was fine. It was
Back
whatever.
to civilization.
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I was just really tired when I got there because it was like 18 hours from Qatar, and then I was here for like 14 hours, and then I like left, and I was just really tired. But Japan's always good. Had some delicious sushi. Woo! And it was funny. There was these two foreigners that were like 2 tables down. And when I saw their like sushi order, I was like, "Oh, they are so like Western," because it was like 8 salmon, and then it was like 8 I don't know, like 8 like shrimp, and then it was like 8 I don't know, one of the other like, it was just all like the most basic stuff that like Westerners normally.
That sucks.
Normally,
Is that zanmai?
Yeah, sushi's zanmai. Yeah.
Why would you order anything but the set menu at zanmai?
Well, actually, I normally like to get like one of the sets, and then I like to get like other things. So I got like the maguro, that's like the tuna set. So delicious, really good. And but but the set is also great. No doubt.
I always just go with the set menu when I go to zanmai.
Yeah, sometimes I like to do that and then just like change 1 or 2 of them, because sometimes there's some I have preferences for, whatever. But yeah. Anyway, and what about let's see, where else? Hong Kong, Thailand, and you were in Japan too. That's right.
I was in Japan,
yeah,
and I did have some delicious sushi.
Good, winning the in the mouth game. Yeah, all right.
Yeah, Japan was cool, and I saw Pepper, the robot.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I don't know if do you know about this robot? Yeah, that new. Who makes SoftBank?
SoftBank makes it.
Robot?
Yeah, it's like a little robot thing that SoftBank makes, and you can interact with it, and it does things.
And it speaks different languages.
Yeah, it speaks different languages. They have it. If anyone is listening is in Japan, go to one of the SoftBank stores, like one of the big SoftBank stores, and they'll have one, and you can talk to it and have it do things for you.
Just have a weird future experience.
A weird Japanese experience.
Yeah.
So it's just like whatever language you start to speak, it just registers what that is.
Yeah, I guess because
you don't have to set
it's like
it to English or anything.
Yeah, it's like programmed to handle different
insane.
languages. It's kind of like Siri, I guess, in that way, right?
Yo Siri.
Hey, yo, Siri.
Hey, yo Siri. Different languages.
Yeah.
And So there you go. Was there anything else about any other interesting adventures in Hong Kong? How did you like that Soho hotel?
Oh, it was good. It was really good. Yeah, I liked it. It's like one of the best places I've stayed in Hong Kong, and which is really surprising. Like you just usually can't find that kind of quality in Hong Kong
For that cheap?
Yeah, for that cheap and
that
for that location. It's insane. You're
Yeah.
you're right next to everything. So
Yeah, the only reason I found it was because I was with Blue M and his friend, and we were drinking across the street. And I looked up, I was like, oh, there's a hotel there.
Yeah.
And then I was like, let's go and see how much it is. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
It is. It is really like super clean and
Brand new. The people are really nice.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Did you show her my picture?
I didn't, but she knows you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If you showed her my picture, she would have gotten really happy. And started talking.
Yeah. I will next time I go. She was really happy when I was like leaving, and she's like, "Please, come back." I was like, yeah, sure.
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah, I figured she must have known you, but I didn't have a picture of you also. So.
Oh, okay. Really?
I guess I could have pulled up line.
You don't have a picture of me?
Yeah, I don't have any
on your phone.
I don't have any of our Puikara.
All right. So okay. So what about you? What did you get up to? Anything
I
interesting?
just crushed pussy in Taipei. When you guys were gone. Somebody had to do it.
But you've been working on some stuff. I don't know if you want to talk about it though.
Yeah, yeah. That'll tie into what we're going to talk to. Yeah, I'm trying to crush it in other areas, but connected to pussy as well. I was going to mention though, one of our friends, he has a girlfriend, and she said that there's a site that Taiwanese girls go on, and they can write about Western guys that they're dating. Mm-hmm. And she said she saw my name on there.
Really?
Yeah. She was asking Cam, like, what's his name?
Oh, really?
So girls go on there that date Western guys and give each other like information.
Do you know the name of this site?
I don't know. It's in China. It's Chinese.
Yeah, but I
don't know. I'll talk to.
I'll talk to somebody.
There's one for Thailand too.
Yeah. There's one for Thailand.
Well, there's not just one. There's multiple in Thailand.
Yeah, wasn't one of the guys just got busted for it?
Plus, there's those. Plus BTS cute guys.
BTS cute guys.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group called BTS cute guys in Thailand.
The BTS, we maybe should explain.
Yeah, so the BTS is like the train system.
One of the trains.
One of the
main train systems in Bangkok.
So, so there's a Facebook group called BTS cute guys, and Thai girls post pictures of cute guys on the BTS.
Is it Thai guys? Foreign guys?
It's both. It's a mix of both. It's just any cute guys they see on the BTS. But it's pretty funny because they post some of the pictures and they have they edit them with all the line stickers and stuff. So it's like all the like love line stickers next to the guys, and it's just pretty funny. So I had like Thai girls before who would they were like, I'm gonna like watch the page, and you're gonna be on there one day.
So, has there been any?
Not that I know of. It could have happened, but I don't know.
I always joke the only girls that think I'm attractive are girls that have already had sex with me and they need a justification. Like he must be
confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Either he's hot or I'm stupid. It's one or the other.
Yeah. That's good.
He must be hot.
Yeah.
Could be both.
True. But okay, great. I don't know. Is there anything else before we get into? Cool. All right. Well, let's get into some of the questions. One of the first is probably a really good. I think is really a good question for this time of year. It's coming on into spring, and normally things are pretty slow in the wintertime for most guys. Certainly in Korea, it's especially slow because it's just so incredibly cold there. But I think people tend to not really get out that much, and so the question is from Mike in New York City, and he said he wanted some tips for how to start approaching hard again after a break in game and get that momentum back. So, I think probably we all have different things to say about this. So, do you want to start?
Yeah, I was thinking about this. It reminds me of if you see that movie Hurt Locker, that won the Oscar that year, right? And it's the dudes that go to Iraq and the guy disables bombs. And so at the end of the movie, he's with his wife and he's walking around the grocery store with her. And she's like, all right, you go there, get the pizza, then I'm going to go over here, and then we'll meet in the corner. And it's a lot like the way he talks to his team. Uh-huh. And so the point is he loves his wife. He loves being with her. But he's so bored. He would go back to Baghdad in a second because he's so addicted. And so I think that's like when it's like slows down, or if you just have like one girl, to have that like you're like I want to get back out there, and you just gotta get like you need a reason to get back out there and get motivated to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love doing it. I love opening, so it's not too hard for me to get back into it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, what would you suggest?
Well, for me, I generally, take an approach that is more about like discipline, really, right?
Okay.
And baby steps. I think those are kind of the two main sort of strategies behind it. So, I think you kind of have to figure out for yourself which one is going to work. But I think it's like a disciplined baby steps maybe is the approach that I would take. So maybe you decide once a week or a couple of times a week that you're just going to go to some place where people are being social, because a lot of times in the wintertime people just stay home. I know I certainly stay home a lot more in the wintertime. So, whether that's going to Starbucks or, something like that. And just, make a commitment to start going. So it depends kind of on where your level was before, right? I mean, if you were really out there, like, really hitting it hardcore, then, your starting point is going to be higher. But if you're, really starting out at a low level, then maybe that's the first step, is just to put yourself in social environments again, because that will start to create that desire to want to do more. So, I think you need to figure out what is a really small baby step for you. That could be, like I said, going to it might even be, if you're in Asia, going to a language exchange. Generally, I don't particularly think language exchanges are the best environment. But, it's a very easy social environment. People are there to mix and mingle. So, if you just start going to something like that, just go on the internet and look up a language exchange that's coming up on meetup.com or whatever. And, that's a good way to start getting out there and starting to leave your house and being around people.
One of my buddies that isn't into pickup, he went to a language exchange in Seoul, and he left with 2 girls and had a threesome.
Really?
Yeah, he's getting married now. He's like, that's why I get married, man, because I had a threesome. What the fuck? They must have been, it was a language exchange. They must have been terrible. But still.
That's
agreeing with you.
Interesting.
In Seoul.
Oh,
Things
one
have changed.
wasn't, I don't think they were Korean. They were there to learn Korean.
Oh, okay.
Terrible.
It just makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
There was like two American girls who were just like, I'm not getting any action in Seoul.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
That's pretty
But
funny.
still, though, language exchange.
So now that he had a threesome, now he can get married?
So you get married now. It's okay.
It's so interesting.
I know. Aren't you supposed to have another? After
Yeah.
you have one threesome, you have another threesome?
Yeah.
Well, time for me to get married. Girls, put your clothes on. Get the fuck out.
I've got a wedding to go to.
There's one chapter closed. Next chapter.
I drove the Benz. Now it's time to go get the the old
The station wagon.
Wooden panels. Station wagon.
I drove it once. Wouldn't want to do it again.
That's very, very strange.
Yeah.
Wow.
I invited him to the summit. He declined.
Oh, really?
He's getting married.
He's already had
He
a
doesn't
threesome,
need-
you guys.
Yeah.
I've already had a threesome. What else do you need to do in life?
Yeah. Exactly.
That's like going to work one day, being like, I made $1. That's good. I made $1.
I went to work on the 27th.
That's great for me. I don't need any more.
Well, that's good. Now I know that after I have threesome, I can resign to never be to never do game again.
Give up.
And just get married.
Well, I can tell you that, having a threesome for me did not make me want to get married.
Great.
It made me want to get married to a girl who wants to have threesomes.
For those of you who know, you obviously just don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe you haven't had the deal breaker threesome. That guy had the deal breaker threesome with
that's
2
true.
language exchange girls. So, yeah.
I usually, I'll walk around and I just smile at girls. Just try to make eye contact and get them to make eye contact with me. And then that'll get me hopefully into my first open usually. A Vision always does, he does one more. He smells and he puts his hand out and waves. I tried that recently and the girl thought I was crazy, like it scared her. Fuck that wave.
I
But yeah, I think that's the best way before you can
don't
do
think
words.
he cares if girls he's crazy.
Vision doesn't care. Yeah. I know. But anyway, yeah. So even before words, I just walk around and smile.
Yeah, that's definitely a good.
It usually turns into words. One girl slows down and smiles, and hey.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Guess you're a lot better looking than I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know. If you look at someone in the eyes, even if it's like dudes, like they'll catch a glance. You always have a window to like approach someone.
Must be a nice experience.
Yeah.
Thank you. What other tip though to get back into opening up?
Yeah, I mean that's a really good that's a really good like baby step to take for sure.
Baby
you know.
step, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that once you've got, so you have to figure out what that smallest step is that you're willing to take, which is maybe just going for a walk and smiling at people, and then do that until that's kind of until you want to do more. Basically, you want the steps to be so small that they don't discourage you, right? Because I mean, if you're like, I'm gonna go out and I'm gonna meet a girl and I'm gonna have an Insta date. I'm going to meet her, and I'm going to take her for coffee today.
And then, like, you go and you approach, like, one girl, and then, she blows you off. Then you're just like, I'm going to go home. And, not all people are like this. Some people are if you tell me I can't do something, I'll try twice as hard.
Yeah.
But there's the other people that aren't like that. And, so I tend to advise doing it the other way, where... I mean, I feel that way if I don't feel like going to a club, for example, and then if I go to a club that's good, not Revolver or Triangle, then
How dare you?
then
Bite your tongue. I met that nice Australian girl at Triangle. She told me her pussy was broken, and she had to wait to go see the doctor.
Well, that's nice of her. So that doesn't really help me. That makes me want to spend more time at home.
Yeah.
But if I go to a good club, then I'm like, oh yeah, this is awesome,
Yeah.
and it makes me excited. So you have to figure out also, what excites you, what's going to get you going, what's going to make you want to get out there more. What's going to encourage you. So part of it's about knowing yourself, but I think but I think the part that people often overlook is they because a lot of self-help stuff is like rah rah, sis boom ba, you can do it, blah blah blah, and that's great, you can, but probably just not today. Maybe tomorrow you'll be able to do it, or a month from now, or whatever. I mean, obviously try, but if you set your standards too high early on, then you can be disappointed and then just call it quits. I think that definitely happens. I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I agree with everything that just said. Ramp everything up like slowly. Go put yourself in social situations first, and then from there, like gradually just go ask some girl for the time, and then go ask girl for directions. And gradually just keep doing it like that. Do things that are really easy and socially acceptable first, and then do things that are harder and harder and harder.
Then do things that aren't socially acceptable.
Right. Then start going out without your pants on.
Don't
start with that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like you just said, small baby steps. That's the easiest way. And I think that also, I think the guy said he was from New York, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of great spots where you could just go hang out that are really good for opening. Like Union Square is like that's like one of the best. That's one of the best game spots in the world. So you go there and just go and get coffee and just chill and then. Just hang out there for a few hours. And even if you're just like sitting around and just watching people, there's lots of interesting things to watch there. So, and then of course you're going to see good looking girls in Union Square. So go, you'll be like motivated to go talk to them and, just small steps. Yeah.
It's funny when you bring up Union Square because it brings back like so many memories.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know if you know this, but I used to, I was waiting in New York for my visa to go back to Japan after, for my working visa after I'd been there for a year studying. And, so I needed to make some money. So I started working, selling comedy club tickets on the streets. Do you know?
Yeah, you told me.
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
But one of the things is this was, back in 2002. And I there's the big Barnes and Noble.
Yep.
Is it still there?
Yeah, it's still there.
So that might be their only store now. So I went to the big Barnes and Noble there, and I picked up this book about how to, meet girls and date girls and do pickup. But it wasn't, this is before that I knew anything about the pickup.
This isn't the game.
No, because the game wasn't even out yet. This is 2002. This is long before any of this stuff. And when I would after I would finish my shift, I would go there. I was like, oh, because I was. I think at that point, right, I was 23 or 24, and I think, I'd been with maybe 5 or 6 girls, which, for if you're listening to this and that sounds like a lot to you, it's really, really, not, if you're not in an exclusive relationship, then and you're actually just being a normal social person. I mean, going out to things that people invite you to, you probably will get that many in a couple of years, even without trying. And if that sounds like a lot to you, then it means you're probably just not even doing the basics. I mean, and it might not even be that you're doing the thing like a lot of guys do this, where they don't follow up. Right? There's so many guys that do this because they're waiting for signals. Okay, I'm gonna shift stories really quick. I was in Hong Kong, and I remember I was walking down the street. I was going to meet this guy who's actually literally a millionaire, and he was a client of mine. So I was going to meet him, and I walked by this Indian girl, and I was looking at her, and I was like, dang, that looks pretty good. I was late, so I was kind of rushing. I was like, dang, that looks pretty good. And then when I looked back as she's going by me, she sort of looked back, and I was like, okay, I can't not go and do this. Anyway, so I approached this girl, and then a couple of days later, we went out. So we go out together, and we're having dinner or whatever in Hong Kong. And one of the bad things about Hong Kong is you were having dinner in Soho or whatever, and and of course a bunch of her friends show up at the bar downstairs. It's in the same restaurant. Oh, those are my friends. Oh, so we end up spending the whole time with them. So she tells him, he does, she tells him what I do. And so, of course, all these guys are like, oh, really? And they're asking me questions. And the guy's like, hey, so I've been texting this girl for, and in Hong Kong, everyone has such big egos there, because they make all this money or whatever. So he's like, oh, I've been texting this girl for weeks. So, what should I do? And I'm like, have you asked her out? And he's like, no. Well, why don't you ask her out? He's like, oh, right. And a lot of guys, they don't do this because they're waiting for signals before they ask the girl out. And this is so common. So if it sounds like 5 sounds like a lot to you, it's probably basic things like waiting for too many signals that's preventing you from doing better. There's a quote from, I don't know, some cop movie that I really like. It's follow every lead. And,
That's a great line. That's a t-shirt. Follow every lead.
Yeah, I think about that a lot because, I think that, a lot of guys, they just don't follow up. They'd rather just go, oh, yeah, she's probably into me. Yeah, probably, than actually try and find out that
burn
she's
it down,
not.
burn it to the ground.
Absolutely, right? Follow that lead and figure out if it's a dead end or not.
Yeah.
So 5 sounds like a lot to you. That's probably why. It's just basic stuff. Not asking the girls out that maybe not trying to actually have sex with them when they go out with you, things like that. But anyway, so I used to read this book, and in this book, some of the basic advice was quite good. It just said go and talk to girls. Most girls will be pretty friendly, which is pretty true in America, I think. You don't think so?
I don't know. I haven't opened in America.
Oh, okay.
They're pretty friendly.
Yeah, they're pretty friendly. I mean, at least they'll be polite, enough to say a couple of words with you most of the time. So anyway, so he's they'll be friendly, and a lot of them, if you just ask them for their phone number, they'll give it to you, and it's not really that big of a deal.
Right.
So that was good advice. But you know what he also said in there that I really remember? He was like, every time you meet a girl, you should bring her a small gift. Every time, because, and I understand the concept. It's this reward thing, where, you want to reward good behavior. But, there's a lot of stuff that works in other parts of that don't work in dating, and that's definitely one of them.
Give her a necklace with a seashell on it, but make sure you put your essence in it before you give it to her.
Yeah, give her a new one every time.
Exactly.
So, but that was my start. I was there and I was reading these
Do you remember
books.
the author's name?
He had like some pseudonym like Mr. F or
Oh, I
something
wonder if
like
he
that.
still does that. I wonder if he's in the industry still.
I doubt it.
Probably not.
I doubt it. So yeah, and I just really remember just sitting in Union Square, sitting there at the Barnes and Noble. I was too broke to buy the book, just sitting there in the Barnes and Noble, just like reading it. And then I can remember, years later in 2006, maybe I think it was the year before I started teaching. I was in New York visiting, and I was hanging out with Kevin Cashmere. and he and I were, he and I were hanging out there, and we did some approaches, and he introduced me to, these guys from the New York Lair, and I hung out with them, and and did some approaches there, and Union Square is fun. So that's definitely a good place to go.
Yeah, I obviously have a lot of good anchors to Union Square. I did most of my boot camp in Union Square when I took it. Yeah. Around the same time you and Kevin Cashmere were...
Right, yeah. Making moves.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anything else about how to get started? How to get started after
I say
a break?
go. Make sure you go. I'd go with someone else because usually every time I go out, I'm like, I don't want to open, not today. And then a friend pushes me into it. I'm like, I feel great. Did you see the way I did that open?
Yeah, I mean, if you can get friends, but I mean, it's true. I mean, obviously it's more fun if you can, but a lot of guys get really stuck on, well, I don't have anybody to go out with, and all my friends are married, or they all have girlfriends. I think this is especially common in America.
Yeah,
right?
a lot of. I mean, I didn't have any friends who wanted to do pickup. Even the friends who I told about pickup didn't want to do it. So I just never had any friends.
You had friends who wanted to make parties and have girls come to them, though.
Yeah, that's true. I did have those friends. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you don't have anybody to go out with, just go out. And the thing, you don't have to. Yeah, be really easy on yourself. Just don't expect anything when you're getting back into it.
Right. And another thing is that when you think about what your baby steps are going to be, you have to make sure that, and this is very, very important as part of any time you set like goals or something, is that it has to be, you're supposed to set goals based on the actions you can take. So, for example, if you're going to say, you could say, instead of saying, I'm going to get 5 numbers, which, depending on where you are in your development, that might be a reasonable goal. It shouldn't be, I'm going to get 5 numbers. It should be, I'm going to ask at least 5 girls for their phone number, right? Because you can't control how many girls will actually give you their number, but you can control your behavior. So you need to be focused on the things that you can do and the things that you can execute, and what actually you have control over.
Yep.
All right, because that way you can go home having done that and go, okay, great. Instead of going, I've been at this for 5 hours and now these girls give me their phone number, right?
Yeah.
Which can happen. I mean, I certainly have had. I can remember nights where I was just like, what is going on? Like every girl just turned and looked at me gave me just a nasty look, like and I was like, what's wrong with me today?
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
So there you go. All right, I think we can move on unless there's any other. Okay, cool. Let us continue. So on podcast, on the third session, quite a while ago, we had a discussion about jealousy and fear. Like, can you eliminate it? Would you want to? And are they quote unquote bad? So maybe we should. I don't know. What order do you think we should take these in?
What the sections of that question?
Yeah, the three
Okay,
things.
so what was the first one?
Can you eliminate jealousy and fear?
Oh, I think we should start by talking about if they're quote unquote bad.
Okay, great.
First, because that's a good kind of meta discussion about that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So, are they bad? Jealousy, fear, are they bad? You decide.
I think jealousy is bad. I don't think fear is bad. Let's unpack really quickly why I think that. I like that. I just think you're never going to eradicate it because we've had it for millions of years. It's just in our DNA to have fear, right? Fear heightens awareness. So I like that fear is in all of society, all of civilization. I like that because only those that can break through fear get what they want, right? So I like that it monitors everyone else and only those that are deserving.
Right.
So like when I go do stand-up, I'm so fucking scared before I go up on stage, but I go do it. And that's why I'm awesome. Before I go talk to a girl, I'm super scared. That hasn't gone away yet. And I'm doing really good, but that hasn't gone away yet. Even if it's a girl any person I don't know, I'm scared. I don't know what they might say to me, but I go do it anyway. And I think so. I like that fear is there. I don't think fear is a bad thing, but I think the way is how do I play with fear?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I slightly disagree with that. I think one of the sort of frames I have about fear and jealousy comes from watching an old Richard Bandler video. Maybe you know this one, or I don't know. Have you ever listened to it?
I don't know him.
Richard Bandler's he created NLP, or he was one of the creators of NLP. So he had this one talk where he says, and this is true. There's only two fears that humans have innately, and that's fear of falling and fear of loud noises. Those are the only two fears that we're born with. And the reason we have those fears is because if either of those things are happening, we're probably in danger, right? If there's a loud noise, you got to check to make sure everything's okay. If you're falling, you're probably in deep shit already. So,
Right.
So the only two natural fears that humans have. Everything else is just a learned fear. It's a good learned response to something because of how we're conditioned, from lots of different things that happen to us in life. So when I'm afraid of things that aren't those two things, I always think back to that video, and I'm like, wait, where? And I try and figure out, okay, where did I learn this fear, and why is it irrational? So I think the more that you look at your fears, the more you realize that a lot of it is just this irrational stuff that's just layers and layers and layers of conditioning, and just learned patterns. So I feel that a lot of, I don't think fear is good or bad. I just think it's, your perspective on it. You got to think of it as being this learned behavior that you can beat, and like you said, you do things that you're afraid of anyway. And that's what drives you forward and how you make progress. So I think it's sort of bad to look at fear and jealousy as being quote unquote bad, right? Because it's not bad. It's just conditioning, So when you look at it objectively like that, it makes it easier to overcome those things. And dipping into jealousy, I think that jealousy is just an extension of fear, right? It's just a learned response to something. And I can't remember if we talked about this in one of the last podcasts, but we had that one discussion. It was either you and I talking about it, or we talked about it in the podcast or something. But you're talking about how there's this idea in society where if a girl can't meet you, depending on what the reason is that she can't meet you, it's either good or bad. Right? Mm-hmm. Like if a girl can't meet you because she's working late, she has overtime at work, then it's supposed to be okay by society's measure. But if she can't meet you because she's with another guy, automatically that's bad, and you're not supposed to, allow that behavior, right? But at the end of the day, the result is the same. She's not seeing you. So at the end of the day, you're just going to be sitting at home or, doing whatever, right? It doesn't change, the outcome doesn't change depending on what she's doing.
Or finding a replacement.
Yeah. So the result doesn't really change, right? It's just your perception of it is creating the whole model of the world, right? Mm-hmm. Again, this is just a learned behavior. You're conditioned by society or whatever to think that it's worse if she's with another guy than if she's not.
Right.
And so I think that it's really important to look at all of your fears and all your jealousy and stuff and really kind of make it objective so that you can overcome it. So yeah, going back to the original question, are they bad? I think it's kind of bad to just give in to those things and when you feel jealous and you act on your jealousy,
that can definitely be bad when you act on your jealousy.
Exactly. Right. So that can be really bad. So, and I don't think and I think that again, going back to one of those older podcasts, you can act jealous sometimes, and that will have advantageous results. But I think that just giving into jealousy, if you're like a naturally kind of jealous person, or if you're naturally kind of more
quote unquote naturally,
yeah. If you're more inclined to jealousy, I should say, or you're more inclined to be afraid of certain things, look at them objectively and find out why, and try and go deep on it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really good point, which is because there's actually, I guess there's a cycle. I've read stuff talking about people who have been brain damaged in certain ways and they can't experience fear, and how dangerous that is for them.
Oh yeah.
Right, because they're not afraid of things. They like don't go to the hospital when like they really desperately need to, and they'll get like their wounds will get infected and they'll just die. They die young because they don't have any fear at all.
Right.
So fear is an important mechanism to to alert us that we need to be careful about something or pay attention to something. So in that respect, obviously, I would say that fear is not bad, and it's necessary. It protects us. However, as you said, there are some fears that are reasonable for us to have, and there's other fears that aren't, right? So when you're afraid to jump out of the airplane when you decide to go skydiving, which by the way I haven't done, so I don't know how scary that actually is, but I think about it and it seems really scary thinking about it.
It's pretty scary when you're up there, yeah.
And probably that fear motivates you to double check your parachute and that you're jumping high enough and to go through the steps, right? So there was interesting. I talk about this in the Awakening the Man Within seminar. There's like and in that they're talking. I talk about it in terms of anxiety. I don't remember where what psychology studies I pulled this from, but they were saying that there's sort of a curve of anxiety where if your anxiety levels are too low, then that's bad. But if they're too high, then it's also bad. You need it to be in the sweet spot. So, for example, if you're, like in the case of a test, if you have a test, if you're, a student and whatever.
You're thinking of Flow, by the way.
No, I haven't read that book yet.
Oh, but there's a chart. There's a famous chart where it has the anxiety, like low anxiety,
okay,
high
but
anxiety.
This is way before Flow came out. I mean, that book's only been out like what, 5 years or something.
Oh, okay. I could be wrong, but but there's a chart from that book where they have like the anxiety levels
and if your anxiety levels are too low, then you won't prepare for the test at all. If they're too high, you're so freaked out about the test that you can't really focus on preparing well. So there's like a sweet spot that allows you to have the right amount of anxiety so you prepare, but not so much that you can't really focus on preparing. So I think kind of fear is sort of similar. And so looking at your fears, so what you were talking about in terms of, hey, I'm afraid to get up on stage and, do this and do stand up. But, part of that is what makes it so you prepare for your stand up. And, I know a few times, you've run through your set with me or I ran into you in the park and you were running over your set. Right. Which probably means that, you don't bomb. I mean, obviously, they always say everybody bombs at some point, right?
I don't bomb though.
But but the point is that
make sure they hear that in the recording. That I don't bomb.
This man's a closer.
Yeah. Okay.
but
sorry.
But probably if you didn't prepare as much, you would have bombed.
Yeah.
By now.
Sure.
So I think that fear is an important component, but we need to be able to take a step back and recognize whether that fear makes sense or not.
Yeah, and I think most a lot of fears that are helpful to us, we don't even consider them because they're not detrimental to our life.
Right.
But I think the fears that people think about, if you have to think, this is probably not good for me, then you should really like look at it with more depth, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're actively thinking about being afraid of something, then it's probably causing a bigger problem in your life than it needs to.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. The fact that you're thinking about this fear.
Exactly.
Because you don't really think like, oh, I'm afraid if I cross the street when cars are coming and I
get
hit, then I'm going to get injured or die.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, healthy doses of most things are, are not noticeable. They're just normal,
right.
So, it's when it actually is like causing you problems and you can't sleep and...
But I would say in terms of girls, I would double down. Fear is really good. Fear is great because being a very emotional person, right? And I want to know my feelings that run through me. So if I know like I'm being really fearful right now or I get very fearful, this puts me in touch with the human condition. We might all be conditioned to be that way. It might not be natural, but we are. So me knowing that I get really fearful, it helps me. I can see fear in other people. I can tell when someone else is jealous. I know it because it's really strong in myself, right? And I'll say this. Bullies usually don't get pussy in high school, but the cool guy does. And so the bully who's like, I'm not scared of shit, right? He has a hard time connecting with women. But then you see the football player who's like, baby, the fourth quarter, I was so scared we weren't going to do it. She's like, but you did it, didn't you, Carter? I pulled it off, but I was so scared. And so I would say I do that a lot, where it's like, we talked about like acting jealous on purpose, which is kind of, it is kind of a little dark and questionable. But I would say like me telling a girl like, oh, I don't know, when you go to the club, I'm so scared that you're going to find a hotter guy than me. And she's like, oh, you're scared because you care about me. I understand. You don't have to be scared. Just like that is a very powerful thing to make a connection with another human being. Mm-hmm. So these emotions, I wouldn't get rid of them altogether. Like the art of war. I always mix up with the war of art.
The war of art.
No. I want to say the art of war. Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu.
Okay.
The art of war is like, know your enemy. I want to know all about fear. I want to know what it does to man. I want to know what it can do to me. I want to really know it well. I don't want to eradicate it completely.
You know what's interesting? You guys have both read some Anthony Robbins, I imagine.
Yeah.
And I remember in Unlimited Power, which was a very powerful book for me, when I read it many years ago. And in that book, one of the things he talks about is, and this is also from NLP, which is, you have like you have two types of motivation. I also talk about this in the Awakening Man Within seminar, actually. Moving towards and moving away. And, moving away generally is, moving away from, could be fears, right? A lot of times. It doesn't have to be, but it could be. And one of the things that's interesting is that fear is if you focus on the right kinds of fears, then it can be very motivating to get you forward, right? So, if you're, if you're terrified of, dying a virgin, for example, that could be very motivating. Or if you're terrified of being alone on, your birthday, then that can be very motivating. Whether that's to go and meet friends, or whether that's to go out and meet women, it doesn't really matter. But so you can take particular fears that you have, and you can sort of focus and polish them up, and make them stronger within you, so that you feel the motivation to take action.
And also another part of that, I remember that from Anthony Robbins, and other people talk about it too. But one of the important things about that is that humans are naturally more motivated to move away from pain than to move towards pleasure. Like they're more likely to take actions that move them away from pain. So if you structuring your life in such a way that you frame things from that perspective is really helpful. Like one of the most common examples of doing this is like if you have a goal, like let's say you want to lose weight, but you're going to be lazy because you don't want to move towards the pleasure of like losing weight. Mm-hmm. You just you want to move away from pain. So what you can do is you can set it up so that you have to pay a friend like $10 every time you miss a workout. Right. So then you don't want to do that. So you're moving away from this like bad situation. Mm-hmm. That you've set up, so you can kind of set your. So I think that the fear fear can be used.
Although depending on how much you like eating, $10 may not be enough. You'd be like, just keep that
like
$10.
Broke and I'm out of shape. The worst.
There was something else that you said. There was something I was. Oh yes. Speaking of fears, right? One thing that definitely, I don't know if you've read this article. I'll be sure to post it on the page. But there was this article about this guy, and it was a woman who did an interview with him and wrote this article. I'm sure I have it somewhere about him like living with a silicone love doll and his whole relationship. And they like write a blog, and she talks to him. As far as he's concerned, I am so afraid of being that guy. That is so scary to me.
Don't knock it till you try it.
I'm so incredibly afraid of being that guy who's so lonely and so unable to deal with women that I feel that I am having a fulfilling relationship with a silicone.
Who do you feel worse for,
doll.
him or the guy that's in a relationship with the wife that yells at him all the time with the 3 kids?
Oh, it's okay. I actually think I feel worse for the silicone love doll guy, sure. And the reason is because he also doesn't get respect. At least the guy with kids,
his girlfriend respects him.
The things that she does, she respects him. At least the other guy tried.
Yeah, I mean he's got people who are gonna respect him for at least being a father.
Yeah, okay.
You know?
He has a stake in society.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's another fear that I have. That's another,
Or lots of people have a fear of becoming like their father. It motivates them, right? They point to that. They're like, I didn't want to be like that. I wanted to be like this.
Right.
It's a huge motivator.
So in that regard, I think that kind of fear can be very useful, but you have to take it and like sort of harness it to do with it what's going to help you move forward, which maybe a lot of people don't spend enough time doing. What's interesting? One of the guys, he became a stand-up comedian. This is once again years ago, and the reason he started doing stand-up was because he was a banker and he needed to do presentations. And he wanted to do better in his banking career. So he thought, okay, I need to be able to speak in front of people so I can do these presentations better. So he started doing stand-up so he could do that. But then he just quit being a banker. He was like, I don't care about this making money bullshit. I like making people laugh. That's way better. So he switched. But it's sort of interesting, about how, he was sort of trying to deal with one of his problems, one of his fears. And, and then it led to doing, something totally different with his life. Now he's a comedian full time and he travels around the world doing shows and stuff.
Yeah.
So, it's amazing what something like that can do.
Yeah. Definitely. That also reminds me of that thing from the You're Not So Smart podcast where there was the guy.
Very good podcast.
Yeah, very good podcast. There was the guy who was afraid of he was, I can't remember what his specific, if he had a specific, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, the guy, he needed to ask investors for money, I think.
Oh, that's right, that guy. Yeah. So he had to ask investors for money, but he was like afraid of like asking people for things, or he was just generally poor in terms of like social situations. So he had like 100 challenges or something that he had to do, like social challenges, and they were gradually getting more and more, challenging, than the previous one. And so he did all these challenges, and then he ended up writing a book, and now he just talks about this book, and he like goes, he did like a tour or something where he talked about it, and he was on the podcast, and now his job is just, it's not asking investors for money like he thought it was going to be, but it's just him talking about this thing that he did. So you never know how things could end up once you start, getting over your fears.
I had very mixed feelings about that.
I also did too, but I think that it was like a good example of what we were talking about here.
So in the podcast, he's like, he had like one of his social challenges was to like go to Krispy Kreme and ask them to give him donuts in the same shape as the Olympic rings, like the connected Olympic rings. Yeah. And, and like in the podcast, it was like, oh yeah, this was this big thing. And I know, right? Because if you've done pickup, you're just like, you're paying them money to do something for you. Like, and they make donuts. I mean, what's the big deal?
Probably liked it. They're like, okay, cool.
Yeah, right. So, they're like, I'm bored at work.
People that work at Krispy Kreme.
I know. Whereas, when you're used to like approaching, girls, and you walk up to like groups of women who don't want to talk to you, and you like make them, give you I mean, when you're used to doing that, you hear this kind of stuff, and it's really frustrating. I have to say, it's really frustrating that this guy is now like going on tours, giving speeches and talks to people because he did this Olympic ring donut thing. You're like, really? I mean, most of my clients did something far more. If I was like, all right, man, after your first night, all right, you did a great job. Today, we're going to go to Krispy Kreme, right? You would have loved that.
That would have been awesome.
You would have loved that.
It's like youth group.
If it had been like, okay, today we're not going to do any approaches on the second day of the book. No approaches. We're going to go to Krispy Kreme, and you're going to ask them to do this. Everyone would be ecstatic. It would be so easy.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I had the same thoughts about that podcast. But at the same time, I also think that the people who get into pickup, it's like this is a niche thing to do. So it's kind of on an extreme end of the spectrum. I mean, going up to random girls and like you said, forcing them to give you attention is not like that's not something that everyone wants to do. And there's a lot of people out there who are never going to be into pickup. They're never going to be interested in talking to random girls. They just aren't. But they might have social fears, and so I think that was good. It was good that this guy wrote this book, because there's a lot of people that would never have access to the resources that pickup provides. Right, but they still need to learn how to get over their social fears. So I thought from that perspective, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
I also agree that
it's weak sauce.
I agree with you. When when you slain the dragons, when you went to Mordor and dropped the ring in, like it's
Yeah, without being a whiny bitch along the way, like Frodo.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk to girls. It'll be okay, Mr. Frodo. Oh, no.
But he was still better off than the guys that stayed in the little. What's the village called? I love the name of the Frodo village.
What is the Hobbit?
The Hampshire?
Oh, the Shire.
The Shire. I love that word, the Shire. It just reminds me of a really small town bullshit. And they're all like, you don't go out there because it's bad. There's dragons. It's just so suburban to me. It's like, why would you go into the city? That's where
Don't
bad
leave
people
the
are.
cul-de-sac.
Yeah, so it doesn't surprise me that a bunch of people are like, oh man, you went into Krispy Kreme? It's just like a lot of people are just plants. They don't want to move. Why would I move? I get sunlight here.
Yeah.
Their lives are bullshit. But it's all defense. What was he saying? Most people move away from...
Yeah, away from pain. Yeah.
Rather than try to move towards... Everyone's in defense. No one's doing... Pickup is such offense.
Yeah.
I'm just going to walk over there. Hail Mary it.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I agree. Pickup is niche, but I mean, I think most guys want to have what pickup gives.
Right, but what I'm saying is that not everyone's going to take the steps to do that.
Well, I mean,
right?
Yeah.
So
like,
but there's people who need to overcome.
Which is why it's going to be really awesome when we talk about averages over later on.
Yeah.
Oh, sick.
Yeah, that'll be really great.
Yeah.
That's so this ties in very much with that. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
Okay. So in jealousy, wow. Okay, so that was all my comments about fear. As for jealousy and whether it's bad, I would say that the jealousy is bad. I don't really think there's anything positive about jealousy. I mean, I think it's valuable. You mentioned about how you think it's good to be able to recognize it so you can see it in others, for example. Yeah, okay, I agree with that. Being able to recognize it and sort of understanding about it, I think is really important because, because it's just a fact of life. I mean, it's human, people get jealous and, if you can't understand that, then, you're going to have a tough life, bro. But,
bro, I didn't know we could say bro on this podcast. I've been saying it every time.
Only if you say it ironically.
Bro. I think jealousy comes from a bad place. No question it comes from a bad place. It comes from a place of scarcity. And I like that you've said a lot of times I get caught, like you're afraid you're going to lose something, right? You're not good enough. And that's not good at all if you entertain those thoughts. Having said that, I think, you know what? Then you're going to have a tough time with girls because girls love jealousy. Even those that don't care for it, that don't want any drama, they're going to do things. Things are going to happen. And if you're their lover and you tell them that, oh, I'm a little jealous about that. And girls are even going to do stuff to get you jealous sometimes. And if you show no jealousy, they will go to great lengths to get you even more and more jealous. I don't know in your guys' situations, but everyone I know...
This is exactly why I use fake jealousy, because I don't actually feel jealous, but I know it's necessary for girls to feel that I'm properly engaged with them.
I actually get super... jealousy is such a huge problem for me, right? So, but to do away with it altogether, I think is...
Well, I think that doing away with it is a good thing, and then you can use it when it's necessary, right?
Or when it's appropriate.
Well, we're saying the same thing. I'm saying I'm not going to do with it altogether. Sometimes I'm going to take it out of the box.
Oh, but
sometimes
you
I'm going to use
saying
jealousy.
that you think that it's necessary that we actually feel jealous.
Oh
Also,
no, you're going to feel jealousy. I mean, I'm going to feel it, but
okay.
I would question why a man once in a while wouldn't feel a little jealousy when he cares about a girl and she's giving time to another guy. I would wonder why you wouldn't feel anything. That's weird to me. It's unnatural to me that you wouldn't feel that. It doesn't have to change your world. You go crazy like fuck you, bitch.
Because
I break up with her, but a little jealousy.
Jealousy, from my perspective, so I get jealous.
It makes me competitive.
I get jealous if another guy has that girl and I don't have her at all.
Okay, that's good though.
Then I feel jealous because it's like you have nothing. You have nothing, Red Pole Q. You have nothing. And I'm like, no, I have something.
But it's the reality of the situation, and the feeling would be jealousy that you would feel.
Yeah, so in this particular situation, when I have nothing, but if I have something, then I'm like, okay, I'm cool because, if she's giving me...
point to that.
If she's giving me anything, then that means I've got something that she can't get elsewhere, and so I have value.
Yeah.
Right? So as long as I have some value, I'm like, cool.
But you're very good with women. Like, imagine guys that don't have any skills at all. Like, they would feel jealous all the time.
Well, not necessarily, because because actually, I often think that one of the reasons I don't feel jealous is because back in the day, I really did get nothing at all. So if like a girl was just like, "Hi," I was like, "Yes, I'm killing it." I called her and she, and I went to an all boys school, right? So I used to do this thing where, okay, this is so creepy stalker, but it was, when I was in junior high school, my mother was a junior high school teacher, and my friends went to my mother's school. So occasionally I would go to I would get invited to something that my friends, and I would meet some of the girls. So, but I didn't, know or wasn't able to ask for girls' phone numbers. So, but my mom had the school directory. So I would go through the directory looking for girls that I had met, and I would call them. I would cold call them. I mean, I had met them, but I would cold call them. And that's how desperate I was back,
That's great.
Back then. I mean,
You're the Wolf of Wall Street of pussy, making phone calls.
And so for me, just getting any ounce of attention from a girl was just so good for me. I think that, my expectations from that age were set so low that I just never really felt like I should get more or deserved more.
That's sad.
So, yeah, well, it may be sad. I mean, it very well may be sad, but that was my starting point. And so I wonder if maybe that's why now I don't really feel jealous, because I'm just happy with what I get. Now it's interesting because that hasn't made me complacent. I wasn't like, oh, wow, I got that threesome. Now I'm gonna go get married.
He's happy.
But it is sort of interesting, in that way. And I mean I don't know for sure that that's the reason, but I sort of have
maybe someone that gets jealous, they have entitlement issues as well.
Right.
But entitlement issues aren't bad. They're great to have with women. If you feel you deserve something, if you're entitled when you walk into a room where another guy's like, "Hey, excuse me, hi, I'm Devin. I don't even know why I'm talking to you. I just wanted." Whereas the other guy's just like, "Hi."
You see, but okay, so the way that
there's a balance,
But the way
there's a way
you phrase this, you just phrase this as entitlement issues, not confidence.
Right. But is it bad to be entitled? This is the balance. Some people don't feel they're entitled to even having a loving relationship. So entitled, the word in itself, is not bad. You just want to be in a healthy
place. So I do think entitlement is bad, but let me qualify that.
Yeah.
It's the issue that I have with entitlement is the sense where people think they should. Okay, because when I was talking about my situation with these girls, and it wasn't. I mean, obviously, if I was willing to cold call them, I thought that there was some chance they would actually talk to me. Right. So my perspective was, if I do my part, if I put in my effort, if I do what I can do, then sometimes I'm going to get a return on that.
All right.
Right? And I think that's a little bit different. Maybe not this. Maybe this is what you meant, but I think a lot of people, when they think of entitlement, they think it means that I should just be able to get without doing anything.
Right.
Instead of it being like, I put in certain amount of work and I'm going to get a certain return.
Yeah, I totally agree. But you want some entitlement. You want to believe that you deserve these things if you work hard. I would say if you put in the work,
work hard,
I deserve
but
this.
I think
it still might not come to you, but I expect to get it. There's some people that put in the hard work and they still don't believe that they deserve it.
Now
even when it comes to
that's
like
really,
success barriers I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So you need to have a level of entitlement. I've done this, and this. I'm not talking about those.
But
those kids
when I think of entitlement, I don't think of it as people who think if they do hard work they'll get something.
But that's fine. That's just your perspective.
Yeah,
I'm just telling you mine.
Right. This is primarily a semantics.
Right.
Yeah, I think so too.
So
I think it's important.
I think that's why.
That's not. That's not
what I think of as.
But I agree with you.
But I like that. I like that we can both what does entitlement mean to us, and how is it good, how is it bad, right? Because some people think it's completely bad.
Yeah. So we actually totally agree.
Yeah.
It's just that I just thought that you meant people are.
They think they deserve
sit at home and be I don't want to take any girls out on dates or call them. Why don't I have any girls?
You know what's crazy?
Bitches.
Some of those guys still do great with girls, though. It's brutal. Some of those guys that think that it's weird. The ones that just think they're awesome, but the girlfriend's in a relationship with them, but she hates them. It's weird, right? Have you never seen that back in the States?
Well,
Like
I mean,
some
you know,
dudes that just really think that.
I
do you
I
mean?
left before I saw
Ah!
any of these sorts of things.
I just mean dudes that just people that just really believe that the whole world's coming to them. Now they don't get it in the end, but they still do get quite a.
Yeah,
things
but you know,
flow
there's
towards them sometimes.
everything will be equalized eventually for them.
Yeah, I
Because
totally
you
agree.
can't live life like that.
I totally
Eventually,
agree.
you're gonna get cut
People
off.
hate it. People
Yeah.
hate it, but it's weird that, like, it's kind of like a confirmation bias. Like people that are like, "Mom, give me this, give me that," and she does do it.
Oh
Eventually,
yeah. But
It's
that's the thing
weird.
is when it finally does,
Yeah.
you know, come crumbling down.
They
like,
jump
it
off a
will.
roof or
Yeah,
something.
they're totally fucked, right? This is, you know, there's like there's a hip hop album by what's that guy's name? Atmosphere, called "God Loves Ugly," and what he like talked about this in some interview, and he said the reason I titled the album that is because, you know, if you're attractive, you have this sense of entitlement, but if you're ugly, you have to work for things, right? And so by working for things, that makes you a better person, right? Because you learn that hard work gets you something. Whereas if everything's just given to you, you know, if you're like born into royalty or born into money or something, you don't have to work for those things.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it kind of corrupts your personality,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
for
I always like that perspective, you know, of
Earn
you know,
it.
This is
Yeah.
just
Or-
like one of the things that Robert Greene talks about in Mastery with the pilot guy. Have you read?
yeah.
Mastery yet?
This is a
You know.
great story.
So there's this guy who is called the Last American Ace, right?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
the Last Ace.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah.
Maybe he's not the Last American Ace, but the Last Ace. And essentially, he's this guy who, you know, is a fighter pilot, and he has like the most kills of like any fighter pilot in the world right now. You know, and he talks about how this guy, he didn't originally plan to be a fighter pilot. But you know, he was going to join the Air Force, I think, and he just, or it was the Navy or the Air Force, anyway, whatever. He joined one of those, and when he took this test to see where he was going to get placed, they placed him in the fighter program, and he was like really surprised because he didn't really expect that, you know, that would be where he would go. And he said that it was really hard for him from the beginning compared to a lot of the other guys that were in the same program with him. The guys that were in the program with him, you know, a lot of them had much better backgrounds, educational backgrounds than he did. And so early on, he was falling behind. And so he spent really a lot of time practicing, and he developed all these techniques to manage all of the various things that you need to manage when you're fighting, when you're flying a fighter jet. And so as the difficulty got higher and higher, the guys who were kind of naturals, you know, they just couldn't hack it. But he was able to just continuously adapt the things that he learned and the mental training and techniques that he did to be able to keep up with the program. And, you know, I think that's you know, certainly been, you know, my experience with girls, where you know,
If you were just a little bit taller,
yeah, where if I was you know 10 centimeters taller, maybe I never would have gotten good with girls at all. But because I wasn't, I was like, all right, well, you know, we got to compensate. Let's get it going.
Yeah.
And especially when I realized that I wasn't going to be making a lot of money anytime soon, which was my plan A. Plan A was make a lot of money. And then when I realized the money wasn't showing up anytime soon, I shifted to plan B, which was become a more interesting person and understand female psychology.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're over an hour now.
Oh really? Wow.
So,
Okay. Well, we didn't even really.
Yeah, I
get
know. We'll
through
have to record
hardly-
another one soon.
hardly-
I feel like
hardly-
it's just because we haven't hung out for so long. We're just talking about a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I
It's
mean,
good though. It's
This
all
is why the
useful.
podcast is good, because it's just us hanging out. It's,
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah.
Literally the lounge.
yeah.
All right, so we had a question in about threesomes, and so I decided to call in Kane Vast, our resident threesome expert. There's him and there's Kevin Cashmere, who are the real threesome pros among the people that we in our circle, and he's in China, so we're calling him over Skype. So, you know, we're hoping that the call will stay together, but there might be some problems here and there, so bear with us. And the question was, please discuss your experience of initiating and succeeding in achieving threesomes. Yes, with two girls. And before Kane gets started, I'm also, at some points, will chime in with some of my experience, which is much less than Kane, but
there is experience with two girls who were totally unpaid. All right, so let's hear it. Kane.
Okay, so my experience doing this was great, and I will do it again.
Yeah. I'm a fan, says Kane.
All right, let's wrap up the call now. And
Okay, so yeah, I remember quite clearly actually the first few attempts I had at this, and they were really where I learned everything. Now, I'll go over them briefly and then go into like the first time I actually succeeded, and then a few like points here and there, right?
Okay, sounds good.
So the threesome game I was running was where I get a girl and her and I go out and try and find another girl in the club or on the street or wherever, and then convince her to come back to our place and then bang each other.
Okay, so
Now-
before you continue into that, can you talk a little bit about, what you think of that approach versus, other approaches? Because I think a lot of guys imagine that they're going to go out and they're going to pick up two girls that are down for a threesome.
Yeah, so we can say that the few different ways to do it. One is that you have a girl with you and you go and pick up another girl. Two is, as you just said, you go out and randomly meet two girls who are just like waiting to come home with some stud and bang them again. And the last one is that you have like two girls you already know that you've probably been banging, and then you like introduce them together and they don't kill each other, and then they somehow bang each other.
That's more my experience. Two girls that didn't know each other, and I was sleeping with both of them, and I put them together.
Yeah. So the first thing where you go out and you find these like two unicorns, these two girls who are down to bang each other and you, but they don't know you, and they're just like in the club waiting for you. This is like incredibly small, because the basic thing about the whole threesome game is that most girls aren't really that interested in banging someone who they're already really good friends with, because it would damage the dynamics of their friendship.
Right.
So unless you find some girls who are really just like okay doing that and have no jealousy issues and stuff.
No jealousy issues with girls.
Yeah, if you find those girls, introduce them. My email is Kane Vast@gmail.com because I haven't met them yet. So yeah. There's a lot of girls out there who aren't like completely insane and don't have much in the way of jealousy issues, but yeah, generally most girls are not like waiting for you to come and pick them up and take them both home. It can happen, but it's like unlikely.
And as far as
that
jealousy,
leaves us with our other two options.
and as far as jealousy issues go, because actually we talk a lot about jealousy in this in the rest of this session. I want to just say that a lot of girls, jealousy is quite situationally dependent. Like, girls can be not jealous if they know theoretically that you're sleeping with other women, but there's not actually any evidence. And then if they find any evidence, then they go fucking ballistic. Right, Kane?
Yeah. So I think I've heard something about this from some guy who like mentioned it to me. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that sounds about right.
All right, so
I may have experienced something like this at some point, if that's what you're alluding at. Perhaps.
All right, so anyway, continue.
Okay, so you would like me to continue with how girls go insane and jealous?
No, I wanted to. So I think we've sort of explained that while it's possible you can go out and meet two girls who don't have jealousy issues, who are looking for a guy to take them both at the same time, and while they watch the other one another, that generally speaking, that's not what's going to happen. And more often the case is either two girls you're sleeping with and you bring them together, or one girl and you take her out to get other girls. Right? Those are the two more likely cases.
Sure.
Oh, or there's one other, which is that your girl brings another girl into it, which can happen, but I also find that to be less rare. I mean, more rare. More rare.
Yeah, so she's only going to do that if she thinks she's getting something good out of it in terms of your relationship with her. And I mean, that's not that different to you and her going out and finding one, right? That's still, you've got a girl and then you add another girl in, or she adds the other girl in. The situation's basically the same.
Okay.
So anyway, Let's go with the one where you have a girl and you take her out and find other girls. Now, the first thing is how you introduce this idea to your girl, right? And a lot of girls are actually into doing stuff with other girls, but they need the right person and situation to make them feel okay about that, because there's a lot of social pressure that says, oh, you're a weird lesbian if you do that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So you really need to talk to them very clearly about this and explain that them doing this with you is cool. You're not going to judge them, and you think that the more that you can have an open, happy kind of sexual relationship with them with no judgment, the better your romantic relationship will be, the closer you and her would be, right?
Right.
So she'll get the idea that you and her going out to bang other girls will make you like her more and improve your relationship with her, because that's an experience you share with her, not with other girls.
Right. And I think this is very true. I mean, if you have a girl that brings other girls into the mix, you're going to be much more attached to her than you are the girl who doesn't want there to be any other girls in the mix, and you either have to fantasize about them or sneak out on the side.
Yeah, you have to have all these side bitches.
So, continue.
So basically, you have the conversation with your girl. Now, I found that there are a lot of girls who are into doing stuff with other girls, and then there's a bunch of girls who are really just like not into it, and they are like 100% gonna fight you on it. Now, if you find a girl you're with, you really like her, but then she's absolutely against it, you logically pushing her to do it is just not gonna happen. So I wouldn't say that you should like pressure the girl into it, because typically what happens there is that she might agree to do it because she's afraid you'll leave her if she doesn't, but then once she's doing it with you, she'll have massive emotional issues and it will turn into a big shit fight.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, you're right. The state of your girl is really important, because the girl you bring in, you know, if she senses any kind of weirdness or discomfort in there, it'll freak her out, because she doesn't want to be in the middle of some domestic dispute, right?
Just basically, she doesn't want to get her hair burnt off, so she knows if she makes your girl crazy when she's in the bedroom and everyone's naked, and your girl goes insane, burns her hair, it's just not going to be good.
How many times did that happen to you before you got your first success?
I don't think I had any hair burning.
Oh, okay.
Quite good.
All right.
So I'll go a bit over my story and how I made that happen, because that's directly related to the system we're talking about, right? So the first step, as I said, is to make your girl understand that this is something that improves your relationship with her. Now, how do you do that? Well, one, you explain it to her. It's not like, hey, baby, I want you to watch me bang some other girl. Because there are some girls who like that, but that's a minority.
Right.
You explain to her that you want to share this experience with her. So it's not about you bang some other girl and her sitting in the corner crying. It's about... Unless you're into that. If you're into that, it's cool. But generally, it should be about you and your girl banging the other girl together.
Right, absolutely.
Right? So your girl should understand that it's a kind of like teamwork, where you work together to do everything. And when you have a team, you also have rules that apply to that team, right? So it's the same thing with sports. Everybody works towards a common goal, and everybody should support each other. Now, your girl has to really understand that she has the power in this situation to say yes or no and make decisions. So the rules that I gave my girl back in the day when I first did this was, I said to her, one, I don't want the second girl's phone number. I want my girlfriend to get the second girl's phone number, right? I don't want any contact with that girl. Two, she can decide if we go ahead and see that girl again or not. So if we see the girl one time and doesn't want to meet again, that's fine. And I said, we both have the power to say who we like or who we don't like. So if we see a girl in the club and I really like her, but then my girlfriend doesn't, then we just won't go for that girl. We'll find a girl that we both like.
Right.
Now, interestingly enough, I found that it was about 1 out of 10 girls in the club was down for this. And when I first did this, when I first tried to do this, it wasn't in the club. It was with like my girlfriend's best friend, and it was really awkward because I didn't really have a solid plan of how to like begin and get all the clothes off and do everything.
Right.
So that was kind of crappy.
Right, but I think this is kind of my experience too. The first couple of times that I tried to get threesomes going, it was like there's lots of, it's similar to normal pickup. A normal pickup, there's like if you're gonna have like any level of real success, you need to have a plan for how you're gonna clear every step, and whether that's, and it could be even simple things like how are you going to like take her panties off, for example. And if you don't have a clear plan, then that can be the hang up that like just, that shuts everything down because it breaks up the smoothness of the progression, right?
Sure, definitely.
But it's a little bit more difficult because instead of just you and managing one girl, you have to manage two.
Yeah. So for me, the first time I got a girl from the club was I was there with my girl and one of the students, a guy called Orion, who is a man of legend.
Yeah.
And
Orion.
and we met these two Korean girls on the dance floor, and I got my girlfriend to open one of them, and then I like told her what to say. So the main thing I found that worked was that I would like run game through her. I would tell her how to compliment the girl, how she should keyno, how she should test if the girl is down. And the tests that I used in general...
Yeah, just give us like one or two examples.
Yeah, so the first test I'd always do is when she's like talking to the girl and dancing with her, keyno a bit, right? And if the other girl like keynos back, then it's usually quite good.
So for those of you who don't know, keyno means like she should touch the other girl, and then if the girl touches her back, that's a good sign.
Yep. And then the second one was she would ask the girl, have you ever kissed a girl before? Now, I don't direct her to kiss the girl at that point, but just ask this question, because every single girl who's not interested, when they hear this question, suddenly realizes exactly what's going on and runs away. Every single time. And the girls that were interested and closed stuck around.
Okay.
So then the last test, and I don't remember I got this. I think maybe you told me this, or maybe someone else.
I hope it was me.
I told my girl to put the other girl's hands on her boobs, and then see how that girl reacts.
Yeah, that might have been me because I was talking about how much girls like other girls with big tits, and your girl had big tits.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, Mystery probably said that originally, but you probably stole it from Mystery.
Yeah, this mystery guy, I don't know who you mean.
Yeah. But that's very true. I mean, even like girls who aren't into like threesomes or into other girls will have this experience. So actually, like, there's a girl that I'm seeing now, and she's got big tits. And one of the things that makes me think that threesomes are pretty unlikely is that other girls want to touch her tits, but she really doesn't like the idea and doesn't let them. So I fear for my future. The future of our relationship. Too. Yeah, the future of our relationship is definitely unclear.
Yeah, sounds iffy.
Yeah. So then what's next?
So we're on the dance floor and we open these two Korean girls, right? And my girl is like dancing with the better looking one. I'm distracting the lesser good looking one. They're both decent, right? Because they're Korean, right? So,
there's a lot of guys out there who think that Koreans are terribly ugly trolls.
Yeah, those people probably need glasses or to go to Gangnam.
Yeah, right. All right, so keep going.
I can agree. Like, a lot of Korean girls that aren't good, but they're just not in Gangnam. So
those girls don't exist to me.
Yeah, exactly right. Just like, okay, let's not get incredibly discriminatory. Okay, continue. So we're talking to these girls, and my girl asks the girl, "Have you kissed a girl before?" And my girlfriend asks her girl, "Have you ever kissed a girl before?" And the girl's like, "No, I haven't." And while this is happening, the girl that I'm talking to asks me, "Are you two boyfriend girlfriend?" And I said, "Yeah, we are, but we're very open. We're very relaxed." And I would always say this because then it lets the girls know, the situation's cool. Now, I don't really know why they think that makes it cool, but basically, it just makes it cool. I'd always say it, and they'd always chill after that.
Okay.
So then my girl started making out with her girl, and, wow, that was, like, enjoyable to watch. It wasn't a great situation because everybody who's listening, put yourself on a dance floor where there's probably, like, 20 or 30 Chinese dudes, and then two girls start making out. And imagine, or just any dudes, doesn't have to be Chinese. Imagine what happens, right? They fucking swarm over the girls.
Although you have to keep in mind that when I was in China, I was walking around with this girl, and just like random Chinese dudes started taking pictures of her. And this happens quite a lot in China. So you can imagine, I mean, at least in the States, people try to pretend like they're not really watching that much. They're not all pulling out their camera with one hand and their penis with the other and stroking it while taking pictures.
Okay.
Far more likely to happen in China.
Anyway, sticking back onto the topic. So I put all these girls like together in a group, and I put my arms around them, and I like fend off the dudes, and I kind of like spin them around in circles to get off the dance floor. So not spinning in place, but spinning and moving.
Right.
And that's the only way I can like push through all these dudes. And then we get the girls to the entrance, and then they want to get their bags, and then we get into the taxi. And at this point, we found Orion again. He's like appeared, and I've palmed off the lesser good-looking girl onto him.
Oh, you're such a sweetie.
So now there's like 5 of us, I think, in a taxi.
Okay.
Yeah. And as the taxi starts taking off, the girls see some of their super trash Chinese friends. And they're not trash because they're Chinese, just for my loyal Chinese listeners. They're just trash because they're bad looking. So then these people run up to the taxi and they're talking. And at that point, I start praying, right? Because I think I'm totally fucked if they get out of the taxi. And they don't. And the friend's like, bye. And then we just like go back to the place. Now, the excuse I made for...
Kane?
You hear me?
Okay, we lost you at the excuse you made. So what was the excuse you made?
The excuse for getting the girls to come back home was like, we'll keep drinking there. We have like nice alcohol there, right?
Okay.
And
they're Korean, so they love drinking.
Yeah. It didn't really matter what excuse. I mean, they were just down to come home. And the interesting point about all of this is that if you have a girl with you and your girl is engaging like some other girl, there's a lot more, a larger feeling of safety and security for them to go somewhere else with you.
Right.
Because just because you're with another girl, right? You've got a girl there, then you've already got this like thing of value and security.
Right. Actually, but this even if it's not like a threesome situation, or maybe even especially, right? Because there have been several situations. I was with McConnell, and we were at a bar not to be named.
That's right.
Where I had a girl with me, and when he was bouncing the girl back, she was like uncertain. And then when we said that we were, me and my girl were also going to the same place, the girl was like, oh, okay. And then it was totally fine. She just came back and banged him immediately, which is really funny, right? And then there was another situation like that, too, where I was with a girl, and me and Illusion went out, and we opened this girl on the street, and then, we were able to bounce her back pretty easily, like the 4 of us. And then, we had, 2 separate bang-out sessions, but, each in our own room. But yeah, it's interesting how much a difference having a girl there makes. Yeah, so I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and from teaching Chinese guys pick up and dealing with like Asians in all sorts of ways, I think it's actually just if they're doing it, it must be okay psychological thing, because that's how Asians make decisions about a lot of stuff, right? If the group is doing it, then that's an acceptable thing to do. Right, absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. So you think that's not as valid? Oh, I guess it's not as valid in the West. That's probably true. Girls just go with random guys. Yeah. I have a funny story about an Australian girl I met in China that is the exact example of that. But anyway, let's not go there. So we get these girls back home, and we're in the lounge room playing Truth or Dare, right? And I've played Truth or Dare with you. Yeah, we played that too, but no, let's not go there. So it's myself,
my girlfriend at the time, 2 Korean birds, and Orion, and we're all in my lounge room. We start playing Truth or Dare, and the dare that makes everything happen is that we dared like the Korean girl to give my girlfriend a massage, and that meant they had to go into the bedroom. And then, of course, I came up with the excuse of, I'll help you find the oil. And then I just went in the bedroom, closed the door, and obviously found the oil.
Right. Okay. So, you know, I'm curious. You know, before this success, I'd just like to hear about some of the things that went wrong with you and your girl and your attempts to pick up. So, you know, can you tell us about some of those things? Mostly because I like hearing about times when things went wrong for you.
Yeah, I've kind of deleted most of those from my brain.
Luckily, new ones are being created on a daily basis.
Yeah, so we went out to the club a few times, and the main problem I had was that if I would talk to a girl, my girlfriend would stand there, right? And then like, the second girl would be like kind of uncomfortable because she's not really sure what's going on, because then it's just like some dude talking while his girlfriend stands nearby. It kind of like looks bad.
Right.
And then I'd get her to talk to the girl, and then she'd just say whatever, but then I would like stand there and not look good because I'm just like standing there doing nothing really.
Right.
So, and I remember this was a discussion, I think, with either you or
Kevin Cashmere.
Kevin Cashmere. But basically, the thing that really helped was that I started talking through my girl. So the second girl would see that I would talk to my girl, and then my girl would like say something to her, and this would go on for about 5 minutes. And then I would speak directly to the girl occasionally, and they'd always be really happy to notice that like I can speak some Chinese, and that my girlfriend would say all these like good things about me, right?
Right. That's really important,
that,
right? That your girlfriend says lots of positive things about you. Really key.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so keep going. So that was one of the problems, was that, you know, either one of you would be talking or the other one would be talking and then when you were talking through your girlfriend to the other girl, that seems to work a lot better.
Yeah, so we just didn't function as a team properly because I didn't take the lead correctly in the beginning, I guess.
Okay.
Now, the second problem was that we got a girl like this back home one time, and we're at home and we're drinking some wine or something, and we were probably like watching a movie, something like that, right? And then I'm sitting in the middle, and my girlfriend's on my right, and the other girl is on my left.
Oh yeah,
and
that's a bad setup.
Yeah, so when I tried to keynote the other girl or anything like that, the other girl got all awkward. And then, because of course he's like, oh, I thought we were all friends. And I'm like, okay, we're in the fucking house, and obviously we're trying to bang you, so we're not friends. So anyway, my girlfriend would try to directly say that she's like down with this, and the other girl was like really shocked and was like, oh, I'm not that sort of girl, I'm really traditional, blah, blah, blah. But, so in her case, I actually do believe she was like a bit too traditional, where she didn't have any kind of map for how foreigners would behave. So whatever I behaved like, she just thought it was just normal for foreigners. And therefore my girlfriend was just maybe a bit weird by Chinese standards. So I would say that selecting the right girl and doing the appropriate tests is really, really key. Because with this girl in particular, as I said, we talked to her and it was really shit because I talked a bit and my girlfriend talked a bit and we didn't really test anything. So it was kind of like when she met my girlfriend and I, it's like I'm that fun foreign guy and my girlfriend's that like dancing a lot, really funny, happy Chinese girl. There was no element of we're going to take you home and bang you in the initial interaction.
Yeah, I was going to say that, you know, I also, one of the problems that I ran into, and I'm wondering if you had this, was similar. It was my first time to try and run a threesome game. And, the first time we went out, me and, this girl, and we bounced a girl back to the place. And we even got the girl in the bed with us. But at that point,
the other girl was like a little bit uncomfortable, and my girl didn't really know how to like start the sexcalation on the other girl. She didn't like, and and when the other girl was like uncomfortable, my girl's like, oh yeah, she doesn't want to do it, even though the girl was like in the bed with us.
Yeah. So in that situation, it sounds a bit more like your girl still had some doubts and was like looking for a way to not continue with it.
Yeah. I think that was part of it, and I think that was part of it for sure. But since it was the very first time that we had done this, I think that she wasn't, and I think she was. I think we were both quite surprised at how well it went.
Yeah.
But yeah. You used your massage example as how you could get things started more easily. And also, did you always? So you were saying in the case, the one example where the two girls were actually making out in the club before the bounce. Have you ever done it where they didn't? Where the first time that they're really touching is the massage?
That was actually the majority of time.
Okay.
So the whole making out in the club previously, prior to banging, that was like once.
I see. Okay.
So it's more common that they don't do a lot of sexual stuff in public beforehand.
Okay.
But they still pass like the minor kind of tests, right?
Right. Okay, well, we've already been on this for about 30 minutes. So I think that's pretty good, and we've covered quite a lot of stuff. So, thanks a lot for taking the time, Kane. Maybe we'll have you back on sometime in the future, because this was definitely fun.
Yeah.
Miss you, buddy.
Okay.
Miss you.